This presentation is an analysis of John Cheever's short story, The Swimmer. The story is set in a wealthy neighborhood in suburban America and, though Nettie says it takes place on a Sunday afternoon in the summer, it actually spans over several years from Nettie's midlife to old age. The weather begins as a hot summer day. The storms and thunder foreshadow the misfortunes later in the story and later in Nettie's life. And by the end, there are signs that it is late fall as the leaves have changed color and fallen, and then the air becomes very cold and most pools are emptied of water. Also, there are winter constellations seen in the sky by Nettie, revealing the passage of time from summer to winter, symbolic of Nettie's life progression from youth to old age. Symbolism of the Lucinda River. Nettie's journey from the initial cocktail party from pool to pool until he reaches his home, which he names the Lucinda River after his wife, is symbolic of his life's journey. He says he is swimming 8 miles back home in one summer day, but there are hints that much more time has passed, such as the seasons appear to change from winter to late fall and possibly winter, and he grows old and tired, noticing that his swim trunks have become loose on him. He also discovers from the hosts and hostesses of each home that he visits that he has lost his financial security, his mistress, his wife, his children, and home by the end of the story. The banks of the Lucinda River do not end up being lined with friends as he had initially expected. In fact, as the story progresses, the hostesses and hosts of each home become less welcoming and more hostile towards Nettie. Or they express pity for his losses, such as his family and his fortune. Clearly, his life falls apart as time progresses, most likely due to his alcoholism and affairs. He seems confused and bewildered by the losses in his life. Confusion of time and postmodernism. Time is elusive in the story. Nettie says that he swims home in an afternoon, but the changes in season shown by the loss of leaves, cold air, and winter constellations seen in the sky reveal that more than an afternoon has actually passed. Likewise, changes in time, shown by how he ages, gets thinner and weaker, as well as loses friends and family, show that the story takes place over a much longer time than one afternoon. The protagonist's alcoholism, denial, and alienation from his own life make him unaware of time. The progression from pool to pool actually represent the protagonist's entire life from midlife to old age. The confusion of time, as well as the story's fragmentation and information that is left out for the reader to figure out about what Nettie's life has been like, make it an excellent example of postmodernism. Irony. The story is filled with dramatic irony as the reader begins to see Nettie Merrill's life in a much different manner than he sees it, through numerous hints that his life is falling apart the older he gets. The story also uses situational irony in that Nettie believes he is younger, stronger, happier, wealthier, and better off than he really is. At the beginning of the story, he seems to have it all, but by the end, he realizes he is cold, tired, old, broke, homeless, and alone. His alcoholism, affairs, self-centered, judgmental, and reckless behavior have made him slowly lose his wealth, friends, family, health, and home. Possible themes. One possible theme is alcoholism, as Nettie Merrill is most likely an alcoholic as he drinks throughout the entire story, which represents his life and his financial losses, memory loss, loss of friends and family, and alienation and physical deterioration that happen as his life progresses due to his alcoholism. Denial and dishonesty are other themes, as Nettie does not seem to want to face the losses in his life and tries to portray his life as much better and more successful than the reader finds out that it really is when he finds himself homeless and alone at the end of the story by the time he makes it home. Another theme is the emptiness of suburban life, as Nettie and his neighbors lives appear to be happy and successful on the surface, but his affairs, alcoholism, and financial ruin leave him homeless and alone by the end of his life, revealing the lack of values and happiness of suburban life. His nakedness at the Halloran's home, as well as being unknown and yelled at on the street and the public pool, show how vulnerable and alone he feels in his suburban society. Lastly, the theme of aging or midlife crisis are revealed by Nettie Merrill's desperate attempt to hold on to his youth by his partying, having affairs, and trying to live up to his the idea of himself as a legendary figure who can swim 8 miles home, when he actually becomes a middle-aged man past his prime.